أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله الذي لا يبلغ مدحته القائلون ولا يحصي نعماءه العادون ولا يؤدي حقه المجتهدون، الذي لا يدركه بعد الهمم ولا يناله غوص الفطن، الذي ليس لصفته حد محدود ولا نعت موجود ولا وقت معدود ولا أجل ممدود، فطر الخلائق بقدرته ونشر الرياح برحمته ووتد بالسخور ميدان أرضه، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين سيدنا الممجد بشيرنا المصدق نذيرنا المؤيد المصطفى الأمجد محمود الأحمد، الذي سمي في السماء بأحمد وفي الأرض بأبي القاسم محمد. وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين قال عنهم الرسول: اللهم إن هؤلاء أهل بيتي وخاصتي وحامتي، لحمهم لحمي ودمهم دمي، يؤلمني ما يؤلمهم ويحزنني ما يحزنهم، أنا حرب لمن حاربهم وسلم لمن سالمهم وعدو لمن عاداهم ومحب لمن أحبهم، إنهم مني وأنا منهم، فاجعل صلواتك وبركاتك ورحمتك وغفرانك ورضوانك علي وعليهم، وأذهب عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. أما بعد، السلام عليكم جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. عظم الله أجورنا وأجوركم بمصابنا بأبي عبد الله الحسين عليه الصلاة والسلام. Yesterday, in our opening remarks, we mentioned that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent the Holy Prophet of Islam, Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, with a mission to develop human beings, to make them realize their true potential, to liberate them from the shackles which were holding them back. The Holy Prophet of Islam created a community that created individuals who are celebrated in history today. A nation that took pride, the Ummah that took pride on its existence and the identity that they were the followers of the Holy Prophet of Islam himself. 50 years after the demise of the Holy Prophet of Islam, stagnation crept in within the community. The community started showing signs, it had reached a point whereby it was totally stagnant. It did not realize, or it followed the instructions of the Holy Prophet of Islam in its own mind, thinking that these instructions are what the Holy Prophet of Islam said. The essence of what the Holy Prophet wanted, the essence of what Quran wanted seemed to have been lost. And therefore, Imam alayhi salatu wasalam decided to make this move. After what had transpired, and the Khilafah of Amirul Mu'mineen alayhi salatu wasalam, and after that time, when Muawiyah and Imam al-Hasan alayhi salatu wasalam entered the truce, immediately after that, Imam alayhi salam decided to give a shock treatment to the Ummah. In this treatment, Imam alayhi salatu wasalam decided to leave Medina, and we mentioned yesterday the the invitation or the summoning of Walid to Imam alayhi salatu wasalam in his court, and Imam's response, Mithli la yubayu mithla. The likes of me will never bow down or pay the oath of allegiance to the likes of him. Imam alayhi salam then comes to Karbala, and what happens in Karbala becomes one of the most powerful events in history, from where everyone draws inspiration. Those who aspire to understand pure leadership, they look at Karbala. Those who want to understand the revolution of Karbala and want to understand the principles of revolution, they return to Karbala. Mu'inuddin Chishti talks about Imam Hussein alayhi salam in this way. He says, Shah hast Hussein. Hussein is a king. He probably realizes that what he has just said is inadequate for Hussein. So he says, no, Padishah hast Hussein. He's not a king. He's the king of kings. Deen hast Hussein. Then he says, no, Hussein is a religion itself. He realizes this may not be inadequate. He says, Di Panah hast Hussein. Hussein is where religion seeks refuge. He says, Hussein is where religion seeks refuge. Di Panah hast Hussein. Sardad. Nadad das dar daste Yazid. He gave his head. He refused to pay the oath of allegiance in the hands of Yazid. Haqqa ke bina ila ilah hast Hussein. Truly, the foundations of La ilaha illallah lie on the shoulders of Hussein ibn Ali. Those who try to understand Hussein, understand him in this manner. A poet in Urdu says, and I will translate it for those who don't understand, although when you make a translation, it does not convey the true meaning of what you want to say. But there is a poet in a very simple way explains what Islam is to him and how he sees Islam. And he explains it in the most beautiful manner. He says, Gham ka ilaj iske siwa aur kuch nahi. He says, the remedy to my pain is only one thing. Gham ka ilaj iske siwa aur kuch nahi. Khake shifa hai meri dawa aur kuch nahi. My cure, the medicine for me is khake shifa. When we talk about khake shifa, it is metaphoric. Khake shifa is Karbala itself, the aura of Karbala itself, the city of Karbala itself, what transpired in Karbala. Khake shifa hai meri dawa aur kuch nahi. And then he says, Male Khadija, Zarb Ali, Sajdae Hussein. He mentions these three things. He says, Male Khadija, the wealth of Khadija. Zarb Ali, the stroke of Ali. Sajdae Hussein, the prostration of Hussein. Islam mein bas iske siwa aur kuch nahi. Husainiyat zindabad. Husainiyat zindabad. Husainiyat zindabad. Nare Azadari. Jai. Muhammad wa Muhammad salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. He says, Male Khadija, Zarb Ali, just for the sake of translation. The wealth of Khadija, the stroke of Ali, Sajdae Hussein, the prostration of Hussein. Islam is founded on these things. Islam mein bas iske siwa aur kuch nahi. Then he says something so beautiful in the most simplest manner. He says, Usne kaha ke deen ki tarikh puri likh. Someone told me, can you please write the whole history of your religion? Usne kaha ke deen ki tarikh puri likh. Maine faqat Hussein likha aur kuch nahi. He says, I only wrote Hussein, I could not write anything else. Usne kaha ke deen ki tarikh puri likh. Maine faqat Hussein likha aur kuch nahi. I was only able to write Hussein and nothing else. Had it not been for Hussein ibn Ali, had it not been for Karbala, had it not been for his rise against the tyrannical and oppressive people of that time, those who were violating the laws of Sharia, we would not have been where we are today. So when we look at Imam alayhi salatu wasalam, he decides to make a move. He decides that something needs to be done. When the Ummah becomes stagnant, when the Ummah does not progress, when the Ummah starts to create and form innovations and considers those to be religion itself and considers those to be divine in itself, and the actual sunnah of the Holy Prophet of Islam is something that people violate and disregard, it is time for Hussein ibn Ali to rise and show them what it is all about. I want to take you to a particular conclusion, insha'Allah ta'ala, and that is why all this preamble that I am giving. Imam alayhi salatu wasalam therefore writes that letter that we mentioned yesterday to the 5 people of Basra. The letter goes to them. 3 of them decide to do nothing about it. One of them gets the ambassador of Imam killed, and one of them actually takes it to his people who read it and want to follow, but by the time they want to come and help Imam, Ashura has already taken place. This was a letter that was written by Imam alayhi salam during the time when he was in Mecca. Then Imam decided to leave from Mecca to go to Kufa. That's where he was going. 8th of Zil-Hajj, Imam went to Kufa. But Imam has a particular wasiyah. There are many things that the Imam has left in terms of sermons, in terms of letters, but there is one particular letter that Imam has left in a written form, and he gave it to his brother Muhammad Hanafiya. And this is the letter that Imam alayhi salatu wasalam writes and explains his intentions of what he wants to do and why he wants to do what he wants to do. In this particular letter, Imam is so clear as to what it is that is driving Imam alayhi salatu wasalam. So in my own words, Ummah of the Holy Prophet of Islam was violating the very teachings of Islam, and it had created its own understanding of what was happening, and Imam felt that there was a need for him to rise. So he makes his intentions very clear. He writes this particular wasiyah, and I will just read it as it appears. Imam writes, and this is a wasiyat of Imam to his brother Muhammad Hanafiya, and perhaps he has written this wasiyat and left this wasiyat for posterity and for until Qiyamah, for people to understand the actual intentions of Imam alayhi salam to do what he wanted to do. That will give us a clear picture of our responsibilities as the Azadar of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi. In the beginning of the letter, Imam bears witness and testimony to the fact that there is no God except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he says, Inna al-Hussein yashhad. Hussein bears witness and testimony. Allah ilaha illallah, that there is no God but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Wahdahu La sharika lah. He is alone and there is no sharik to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Wa anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. And the Holy Prophet of Islam, Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, is his abd and is his messenger. Ja'a bil haqqi min indih. This prophet has come with truth from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then he bears witness to the what Quran and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to say. وَأَنَّ الْجَنَّةَ حَقٌّ. And Hussein bears witness that paradise is a truth. وَالنَّارَ حَقٌّ. And hellfire is truth. وَالسَّاعَةَ آتِيَةٌ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهَا. And the day of judgment will come. Hussein bears witness, it is there to come. لَا رَيْبَ فِيهَا. There is absolutely no doubt that the day of judgment is also there. وَأَنَّ اللَّهَ يَبْعَثُ مَنْ فِي الْقُبُورِ, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will raise those who are in the graves. Having said this, now he clearly talks about his intentions of leaving Medina. And he writes this wasiyat and leaves it with his brother Muhammad Hanafiya. He says, وَإِنِّي, let it be known to the world, لَمْ أَخْرُجْ أَشِرًا وَلَا بَطِرًا وَلَا مُفْسِدًا وَلَا ظَالِمًا. Let it be known that Hussein is not leaving Medina with evil intentions, or to acquire fame, or for a show of purpose. No. وَلَا مُفْسِدًا وَلَا ظَالِمًا. Nor is Hussein leaving because he wants to spread corruption and fasad on earth. Nor is he leaving with the intentions of oppressing anyone. None of this is the intention of Hussein ibn Ali. None of it. He says, I will tell you what my intentions are. وَإِنَّمَا خَرَجْتُ لِطَلَبِ الْإِصْلَاحِ فِي أُمَّتِي جَدِّي. I am leaving and rising against whoever I'm rising. I'm paraphrasing this. I am leaving Medina for this purpose. I am leaving Medina. وَإِنَّمَا خَرَجْتُ لِطَلَبِ الْإِصْلَاحِ فِي أُمَّتِي جَدِّي. I want to reform the ummah of my grandfather. This word Islah is one of the most important words, and it syncs beautifully with the Azadari of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein salawatullahi wa salamu alayh. At this point, Imam alayhi salam says, this is the intention for which I live. The fact that he wants a reformation of the Ummah of the Holy Prophet of Islam gives you and I a clear picture of what was happening only within 50 years of the demise of the Holy Prophet of Islam. Sa'ad ibn Abi Waqqas was the companion of the Holy Prophet of Islam. His son is Umar ibn Sa'ad. What a tragedy! What a tragedy. A poet in Urdu says, क्या गजब हो गया Islam ki taqdeer ke saath. What calamity befell upon Islam. Kya ghazab ho gaya Islam ki taqdeer ke saath. Qatl shabbir hua narae takbir ke saath. They killed Hussein and they said Allahu Akbar at the same time. What a calamity befell upon this ummah. Kya ghazab ho gaya Islam ki taqdeer ke saath. Qatl shabbir hua narae takbir ke saath. They killed Hussein ibn Ali while they were saying Allahu Akbar and Takbir. So Imam says, the fact that he says, I am seeking reform for the Ummah of my grandfather tells us the picture of what was happening only 50 years. And I want to insist on this. Only 50 years after the demise of the Holy Prophet of Islam. So he says, وَإِنَّمَا خَرَجْتُ لِطَلَبِ الْإِصْلَاحِ فِي أُمَّتِ جَدِّي. What I want to do, again, is extremely clear. There is no ambiguity whatsoever. أريد أن آمر بالمعروف وأنهى عن المنكر. I want to do amr bil ma'roof and nahi anil munkar. At the moment, I am not making a translation of this, of amr bil ma'roof and nahi anil munkar, and I am leaving it to you as you understand the translation of it. And we shall discuss what amr bil ma'roof and nahi anil munkar is as we go along. But to us, the simplest form of amr bil ma'roof is to correct somebody's wudu and to tell somebody this is right, and amr nahi anil munkar to tell somebody this is wrong. The highest form needs to be understand of what amr bil ma'roof and nahi anil munkar is. Here Imam says, Uridu an amura bil ma'roof wa anha anil munkar. What I want to do is amr bil ma'roof and nahi anil munkar. Wa asira bisirati jaddi wa abi. And I want to follow the footsteps of my grandfather and my father Ali ibn Abi Talib salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayh. Now, having said this, Imam alayhi salam then makes an invitation upon people. This is the intention which I am leaving. Join me in this particular movement. Assist me in this particular movement. Something for your reflections and my own reflection is, here it is, Imam says, فَمَنْ قَبِلَنِي بِقَبُولِ الْحَقِّ. Whosoever accepts this invitation of truth of mine is as if he has accepted this invitation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَمَنْ رَدَّ عَلَيْهِ, and one who rejects this particular invitation. فَأَصْبِرْ, I Hussein will be patient. حَتَّى يَأْتِيَ اللَّهُ بَيْنِي وَبَيْنَ الْقَوْمِ بِالْحَقِّ, until Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brings His decision between myself and the Ummah. Wallahu ahkamul hakimin. Allah is the best of the judges. And then He says, وَهَذَا وَصِيَّتِي إِلَيْكَ يَا أَخِي. O my brother Muhammad Hanafiya, this is my wasiyat to you. وَمَا تَوْفِيقِي إِلَّا بِاللَّهِ. And my favors are only from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. عَلَيْهِ تَوَكَّلْتُ. Alone and alone Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is whom I rely upon. وَإِلَيْهِ أُنِيبُ. And it is only unto Him that I shall return. This is what Imam alayhi salam has left. Imam has made an invitation. This is an invitation that he gives us in Medina. Then there is an invitation in which he calls upon us on the day of Ashura. And he says openly in front of everyone, when there is no one there, in terms of the youths and the companions of Imam alayhi salam, there is no one there. He says, Hal min nasirin yansurna. Is there anyone who will come to our aid? Ya Aba Abdullah, who are you calling upon? Are you expecting someone to defect from there and come and assist you? Hur is no more. Hur is gone. He then calls upon us again and again. Then here we are, sitting today, saying to Imam alayhi salam every day, Ya laytani kuntu ma'ak. I wish I was with you. If we take kullu yawmin Ashura and kullu ardin Karbala, every day is Ashura, every land is Karbala, then when we say Ya laytani kuntu ma'ak fa'afuza fawzan azima, you may hear Imam Hussein saying, well, your Karbala is here. Here it is for you. You call, you say you wish you were there with me, it is here for you right now. How are you going to deal with your own Karbala? How are you going to deal with this situation? Don't just say, Ya laytani kuntu ma'ak. It is not a ritual recitation. There is a meaning to what we are saying at that particular time in the ziyarat that we are reciting. So Imam alayhi salatu wasalam has he invited people then. And he got types and types of people. If I do get a chance, inshaAllah ta'ala, I will sometimes discuss those who joined him conditionally, those who joined him unconditionally. There were many people who joined Imam conditionally. There were many who joined him unconditionally. And there are many who left him in the last minute as well, which we recite on the night of Ashura. But because it is a night of Masa'ib, it probably passes us that a lot of people decided to leave Imam alayhi salam, and we will see the intentions with which they left and what they spoke about after. Imam has made this particular invitation, and he called you and I to come and assist him. After that, Imam leaves, and he goes to Kufa. He is diverted from Kufa and arrives into Karbala. We will come to, inshallah, Karbala later on. Karbala, a massacre takes place. I don't call it a battle, nor do I call it a war. A massacre took place in Karbala. From Habib ibn Madahir to Ali Asghar, all of them were killed. No serious reader. And you will not find anything logical about what happened in Karbala. After that, Imam alayhi salatu wasalam was no more. This whole idea of reformation, the whole idea of reviving, the whole idea of liberating, and Imam has also statements on liberation, of our liberation. All these things were carried by the fourth Imam alayhi salam. And this is not masa'ib, but it becomes a masa'ib. No imam in history assumed the divine office of imamah in more tragic circumstances than Imam Zainul Abidin alayhi salam. No Imam. Imagine the day he became Imam. It was Shami Ghariba. Imagine the day he became the Imam. It was Shami Ghariba. And can I remind you exactly of the moment of the realization of his Imamah when he realized it? Allow me to remind you. Bibi Zainab comes and wakes him up after Asr. Sajjad, I cannot see your father. Sajjad, assist me, help me so that I can see him. He says, Aunt, assist me. He stands up. She brings him to the door of the tent. He lifts the curtain. May Allah not show a son what Imam Zainul Abidin saw at that particular time. He looks towards the right and towards the left. And suddenly he starts shaking and shivering and saying, Assalamu alayka ya Aba Abdullah. For he sees the head of his father on a lance. No Imam assumed the office of Imamah in more tragic circumstances than the fourth Imam alayhi salam. But here, he is focused. Imam alayhi salam is focused. He knows what this whole Karbala stood for. He knew what the Holy Prophet of Islam wanted this Ummah to be. Imam is taken a captive. He goes from Karbala to Kufa. He makes his own contributions, and it is not a time to discuss his contributions. But he makes his own contributions, Imam alayhi salam. Then he comes to Sham. In Sham, he reminds people of who he is. He makes sure that he tells the people of what family he belongs to. Now the Shia community is in a state of dilemma, is in a predicament after Ashura. The Imam of the Shia community has been taken a captive. Third Imam has been brutally martyred in Karbala. Hostility has made people move away from there. People do not have the guts to speak. People are scared. Imam is now taken as a captive and kept in Sham. So there is no connection between the community and the Imam. In Medina, at the same time, there is a movement which is known as the Kaysaniya movement. In Medina, there is a movement to accept Muhammad Hanafiya as the Imam. So the Shia community is in a state of total chaos. But Imam is extremely focused. He has a responsibility that he needs to fulfill. And therefore, Imam alayhi salatu wasalam decides, A, how to connect with the Shia community, establish his imamah upon them, and make sure that the blood of Hussein ibn Ali is never forgotten until the day of judgment. These were huge tasks that Imam needed to fulfill. Here Imam alayhi salatu wasalam did whatever he could. And I could go and explain to you in history to the extent that when someone invited Imam alayhi salam for wedding and told him to attend a wedding, Imam made sure that he told them to remember Hussein ibn Ali, that he told them to think about Hussein ibn Ali so that he may be able to come. Imam used to sit in the majalis of Imam Hussein alayhi salatu wasalam where the discussion of Imam was taking place. And he used to himself sit by the area where people used to leave their shoes while Imam was arranging it. All this to make sure that what happened in Karbala and what was taught by the Holy Prophet of Islam is not forgotten. The idea of Azadari, therefore, and I will conclude in a moment, inshallah ta'ala, with this. The idea of Azadari, therefore, is to make sure that we understand the true principles of Azadari, number one. That we understand the foundations of why Azadari was founded. We make sure that there is an impact to this and the impact that Imam Zainul Abidin actually created there and Janab Zainab created in Sham, we need to study each one of this to make sure that we know. And after that, try and understand what is expected of us when we come and sit in the Farshi Aza of Aba Abdullah al-Hussein salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayh. My fellow brothers and sisters, what has kept us alive, what has kept the Shia community alive against all odds is Azadari of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. There is no doubt in anyone's mind that it is the Aza of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein that has kept this community alive. In the shadow of swords, this community has developed itself. It is the Aza of Imam alayhi salam. You know, Raza Sirsavi is a poet. He lives even today. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give him a long life. He says, Muttahid rakhe hai, kul qawm ko tasbih aza. He says this community is united by the tasbih, which is known as the tasbih of aza. By the rosary, which is known as the rosary of aza. मुत्तहिद रखे है कुल कौम को तस्बीह अज़ा, डोर टूटेगी तो दाने भी बिखर जाएंगे. If the string breaks, then all the beads are going to scatter. All this unity that is there in the name of Azadari will disappear. डोर टूटेगी तो दाने भी बिखर जाएंगे. मछलियां रह नहीं सकती कभी पानी के बगैर. A fish cannot survive without water. मछलियां रह नहीं सकती कभी पानी के बगैर. हम जुदा होंगे गमे शह से तो मर जाएंगे. If we separate ourselves from the gham of Hussein ibn Ali, from Hussein himself, this community will die. We now need to understand what it is that is expected of us so that we can understand this whole movement of Imam alayhi salatu wassalam. Let me now bring myself to some realization. When I try to find Imam Hussein in a community, in our community, when I try to look for Imam Hussein alayhi salam, and I am reminding myself of this, I see he is very much alive in our community, especially in the days of Muharram. Poetries, in the mosques and Husseyniyas, there is poetries about Imam Hussein. Imam Hussein is in all the poems. Imam Hussein is in all the marsiyas. Imam Hussein is in all the nawhas. Imam Hussein is in all the matam. He is there on the wall right now. The black clothes are all talking about Imam Hussein alayhi salatu wassalam. This is where he is as far as the community is concerned. When we try to look for Imam Hussein in the world of academia, we find, and forgive me for saying this, but we find that Mahatma Gandhi or Nelson Mandela is more spoken about than Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salatu wasalam. Mahatma Gandhi takes inspiration from Hussein ibn Ali. He takes pride. He even takes 72 people when he goes for a particular march. Inspired by Hussein ibn Ali is there in the world of academia. There are books that have been written. There are subjects that have been spoken about regarding Imam Hussein, but not in an intellectualized manner, such as justice, such as morality, such as many subjects that come from Karbala. So in the world of academia, you find that Hussein ibn Ali is not as much spoken as he should be. And when we try to find Hussein in the media, it is the most unfortunate thing what media does. They will go to a particular place, they will take a picture, whatever the photo is. They will find someone doing matam or something, whichever the picture is that they prefer to put on newspapers. Show that picture with a small caption saying these are the mourners of the grandson of the Holy Prophet of Islam. So the reader of the newspaper has a totally distorted understanding of what Hussein or Karbala is. I come to the mosque, raise my hands for matam and do the azan. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless every hand that the man raises his hand and puts it on his chest. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless those hands. But that is not where Azadari ends. That is only the reminder of the Azadari. In the mosques he is there. In the world of academia he is there, but not as he should be. And in the media, Imam alayhi salatu wassalam is actually missing. And a wrong picture of Imam is given as far as the media is concerned. I will ask this question to myself. How many of us are members of any civil rights group? How many of us are members of human rights organizations? When you ask this question to yourself, you begin to wonder, what have I learned from Karbala? What did Karbala give me? How did I understand Karbala? Should the Azadar of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein in the modern day not be heading human rights organizations? And then say he is the Azadar of Hussein ibn Ali. Should it not be the Azadar of Hussein ibn Ali today that should be heading civil rights groups? And then say, I am the follower of Hussein, the one who laid foundations of justice. So coming to the mosque is wonderful, beautiful, but we need to make sure that those things are means for us to move towards the end. All these things that have been given to us by the Holy Prophet of Islam are all these, and Imam alayhi salatu wassalam, and Imam Sajjad, and Imam al-Rada, and all these things, Askariyain. When you recite Ziyarat of Nahiya, read in Ziyarat of Nahiya. It is not only for the purposes of recitation. And I will come to all this as to how we do just a lip service. So, the movement of Imam alayhi salatu wassalam, the decision that he took, the asghar that he gave, the Qasim's body that he lifted in a condition that was not something that an uncle should have seen, is emotional, extremely emotional. But behind it, there was a reason of Hussein ibn Ali. تركت خلقا ترا في هواك وأيتمت العيال كي أراك. I orphaned my children, my Lord, so that I may be able to meet you. So here it is, Muharram for us. A point of revival, a time for reformation, a time for us to be inspired by what Karbala is, a time for us to understand the true principles of what Karbala actually means, and what was it that the Holy Prophet of Islam wanted us to achieve. A time for us to recite the ziyarat of Waritha or the ziyarat of Ashura by understanding the true essence of it, and not only just the recitation of it, so that we are inspired by it and be able to fulfill what Hussein ibn Ali expects from us. He decided to do this, and he left for Kufa. He wrote this wasiyat. He met the people. They stopped him. They tried to stop Imam Hussein alayhi salatu wasalam with the best of intentions. Ya Hussein ibn Ali, why do you want to go to Karbala? Why do you want to go to Kufa? You can relax in Medina. You can have a wonderful time in Medina. You don't need to go. He says, Inna Allah qad arada an yarani qatila. Allah has decided to see me martyred. Okay, why do you want to take the ladies? Inna Allah qad arada an yara'hunna sabaya. Allah wants to see them captives. He makes his intentions very clear, and he decides to leave. 8th of Zil Hajj, he departs to go from Mecca to Kufa. When we recite the Masaib, tonight is the second night of Muharram, and traditionally in this community we speak about the arrival of Imam Hussein alayhi salam in Karbala. When we talk about the Masaib of Imam alayhi salam in Karbala, we talk about these Masaib and finish them in 5 minutes or 10 minutes. But you know how long it took Imam Hussein from Karbala, from Medina to go to Karbala? 24 days. It took 24 days. We finished the Masaib in 5 minutes, weep, cry and leave. It took 24 days for Imam alayhi salam to go from Mecca and arrive into Karbala. In between, he had to stop in 16 places, inviting people, having to go through the difficulties and the problems of the way, and worse still, profound companions of Imam and friends of Imam martyred on the way. Qais ibn Musahhar Saydawi, shaheed while Imam was on the way. Muslim ibn Aqil, shaheed while Imam was on the way. Right. Suddenly, as he was moving, and he was not allowed to proceed towards Kufa, he moved towards Karbala. And there came a point where the horse stopped and did not move forward. He looked at the ladies, and the ladies looked at him. And the ladies and the children said, is this another halt, another stop? They had already done 16. Is this another halt? Is it another stop? And Imam says, no. He called upon the people who he saw. Come here, tell me, what is this place known as? Someone said, this is called Taf. Imam said, does it have any other name? Yes, it is called Shaqtul Furat. Does it have any other name? It is called Ghadiriyah. Does it have any other name? Nainawa. Has it got any other name? And they kept saying the name. Suddenly, an old man realized that Imam Hussein alayhi salatu wasalam is asking so many questions. He moves forward and he says, you know, this place is also known as Karbun wa Bala. Imam alayhi salam heard the name and he said to the youths of Banu Hashim, we need to pitch the tents here. Ha huna masfaku dima'ina. This is the place where our blood is going to be spilled. This is the place. This is the very place. Therefore, I command you to pitch the tents. The tents were being pitched, and suddenly while the tents were being pitched and the youths were pitching the tent and they was deciding to stay there, Imam alayhi salatu wasalam was approached by Janab Zainab. Janab Zainab came to Imam and says, oh my brother, there is something about this place. Imam says, what is happening to you, Sister Zainab? She says, there is something happening in this place. There is something wrong about this place. I feel very anxious in this particular place. Imam is listening to his sister Zainab. There is this sense of anxiety in me. Then Janab Zainab says something. She says, I can hear a lady, a woman's voice, crying and weeping as if she is weeping over her son or her child. Imam says, Zainab, did you not recognize this is Fatima, our mother, who is no more in Baqi? She has come here. Azadari Imam Hussein alayhi salatu wassalam. Imam alayhi salam ne ek martaba Banu Asad ko bulaya. Banu Asad se kaha कि इस ज़मीन को मैं ख़रीदना चाहता हूँ. इमाम ने ज़मीन को ख़रीदा. ख़रीदने के बाद इमाम ने उस ज़मीन को दोबारा हिबा किया. बनु असद वालों को बुलाया और कहा कि मेरी तुमसे एक इल्तिजा है. ए बनु असद के मर्दों, इस जगह पे हमारा खून बहने वाला है. इस जगह पे हुसैन शहीद होने वाला है. इस जगह पे हुसैन शहीद होने वाला है. शायद मौला कहना चाह रहे हो कि यहाँ हुसैन का लाशा घोड़ों की टापों से पामाल होने वाला है. ए बनु असद के काफिले वालों, ये ज़मीन तुम रखो, मैं इसकी कीमत अदा किए दे रहा हूँ. मेरी तुमसे एक इल्तिजा है. क्या इल्तिजा है मौला? कि जब हमारी शहादत हो जाए तो तुम आके हमारी कब्रों को बनाना और हमें दफन कर देना. फिर इमाम ने बीबियों को बुलाया और बीबियों से कहा कि अगर तुम्हारे शौहर सुस्ती दिखाएं और ना आए तो तुम आके हमारी कब्रों को दफन कर देना. پھر چھوٹے چھوٹے بچوں کو بلایا اور کہا اگر کھیلتے کھیلتے یہاں سے تمہارا گزر ہو تو 2 مٹھی خاک اڑا دینا۔ یہ کہہ کے عزادارو امام علیہ السلام نے ایک مرتبہ زمین ان لوگوں کو دے دی۔ عزادارو جب امام علیہ السلام زمین دے چکے اور کربلا کے اندر یہ وصیت کر چکے، شاید بنو اسد والے آئے ہوں، شاید بنو اسد والے عاشورہ کے بعد آئے ہوں اور بنو اسد والوں نے دیکھا ہو کہ اب تو ہمیں لاشوں کو دفن کرنا ہے۔ لاش کی پہچان 2 طریقوں سے ہوتی ہے، لاش کی پہچان 2 طریقوں سے ہوتی ہے، یا تو چہرے کو دیکھا جاتا ہے یا لباس کو دیکھا جاتا ہے۔ حسین کا لاشا گھوڑوں کی ٹاپوں سے پامال ہو چکا تھا، لاش پہ سر نہیں تھا۔ عزاداروں نہ جانے بنو اسد کے قافلے والوں نے کیا کیا ہوگا، مگر عزاداران امام حسین یہ لاشا کیسا تھا، بس ایک مرتبہ ایک جملہ اور اس کے بعد آپ کی زحمتوں کو تمام کر دوں گا۔ یہ لاشا کیسا تھا؟ ارباب مقاتل نے لاشے حسین کے بارے میں بہت کچھ لکھا ہے، میں ہمت نہیں کرتا کہ میں اس لاشے کے بارے میں آپ کو کچھ بیان کر سکوں کہ اس لاشے کی کیا حالت تھی۔ بس اتنا کہوں گا کہ آپ زینب اور حسین کی محبت کو سمجھتے ہیں، حسین اور زینب کی محبت کو جانتے ہیں۔ 11 محرم کو جب جناب زینب کو اسیر بنا کر حسین کے لاشے پہ لایا گیا، توجہ چاہتا ہوں، سینے پہ ہاتھ رکھے یہ مصائب سنیے گا، جب جناب زینب کو، اس سے آپ کو پتہ چل جائے گا کہ حسین کے لاشے کی کیا حالت تھی۔ جناب زینب کو جب لایا گیا ہے اور جناب زینب جب اپنے بھائی کے لاشے پر پہنچی ہے، ایک جملہ کہا ہے، جناب زینب نے جملہ کہا ہے، اس جملے کو سنبھالیے گا۔ جناب زینب نے اپنے بھائی کو دیکھا اور ایک جملہ کہا، انت اخی، آپ میرے بھائی حسین ہیں؟ جناب زینب نے یہ سوال پوچھا۔ اب میں نہیں کہہ سکتا کہ لاشے کی کیا حالت تھی، اتنا کافی ہے وہ بہن جو ایک لمحہ اپنے بھائی کے بغیر نہیں رہ سکتی تھی، اس بہن نے یہ سوال پوچھا، انت اخی، کیا آپ میرے بھائی حسین ہیں؟ یہ کہہ کے جناب زینب کو اسیر کر کے لے گئے۔ جناب زینب کوفہ آئی، کوفہ سے شام آئی۔ آیت اللہ جواد عاملی اپنے مصائب کے اندر ایک عجیب و غریب منظر پیش کرتے ہیں۔ آیت اللہ جواد عاملی کہتے ہیں جناب زینب شام گئیں، شام سے واپس آئیں، جب حسین کی قبر پہ پہنچی، گھٹنیوں کے بل جناب زینب حسین کے قبر کے اوپر آئیں، اور جب حسین کی قبر پہ آئیں تو شاید زینب نے کہا ہوگا بھیا زینب کوفہ فتح کر آئی، بھیا زینب شام فتح کر آئی، بھیا زینب نے تمام حاکموں کو شرمندہ کر دیا۔ شاید آیت اللہ جواد عاملی کہتے ہیں کہ جب جناب زینب قبر میں تھی، عجب نہیں کہ قبر کے اندر سے آواز آئی ہو، کیا تم میری بہن زینب ہو؟ سيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون. مات حسين.